Hello everybody, my name is Karl Duran and this is Life Confidential. We meet here each week and we talk about how you can reclaim your truth with new direction and clarified vision. Last week we covered how to gain clarity in your life, and I hope you had the time to do the exercises that we talked about. Specifically telling yourself that you can do it all week. And if you did, you have some success stories of how that might have changed your perspective, or it might have helped give you strength or clarity on how to live out your week. Share those with me. Go on Instagram, go on Facebook, go on the YouTube page, go in the comment sections, and share some of your stories with me. I'd love to hear about it. Today we talk about how to live your purpose. I love to go to Target. Surprisingly enough, I do love to go shopping there. But what I find is when I go in and I don't have a list, I walk out with a lot more than I planned. I don't know if any of you are like that, but when I walk in, if I don't have a list, I could walk through and suddenly I need 4 or 5 other things that I didn't realize I needed. I start wandering through and grabbing things and throwing it in the cart and saying, oh, well, we need this. Oh, well, how come we haven't had that? And when I first walk in, if I have no list, I grab a little basket because I'm only grabbing a few things. Next thing you know, I have a cart. Then when we pull out and we're going through the checkout, next thing you know, $100, $150, $200 spent on things that I needed, right? I think we can all do this. In life, this is the way that we live when we don't know our purpose. We wander. We go through and we pour our time into things that may not be as important. We spend our money on things that we may not need. And we give value to things that don't always help us get to where we want to go. Wandering is the first thing I want to talk about. I'm moved by music. I love music. And one of my favorite bands is called A Perfect Circle. And they have a new album out, and one of my favorite tracks on it is called Disillusioned. And what they talk about in that song is how we've been overrun by our natural animal desires. We become addicted to the immediate, and it keeps us obedient and unaware. So our desires to want, our desires to have, our desires to keep consuming things, it forces us to move to the immediate, right? You could order anything on your phone. Netflix takes over our lives. Hulu, Amazon Prime, if you have that, I know I do, and I have so much stuff that I might not need because it's immediate. It keeps us just focused on looking for other things like that. And this is the way that we can find ourselves in life sometimes. So when you write out your goals, when you write out your vision, when you write out your dreams, it can sometimes keep us more focused on where we want to go. It's like a shopping list for us. When we have a shopping list, we walk in with purpose. We stay focused on it. We get everything that we need before we get out. And don't get me wrong, we grab some other stuff along the way, but this keeps us focused on making sure that the priorities are taken care of. So what I want you to do this week is I want you to spend some time and I want you to write out some goals that you may have. Write out things that you can do. If you could only do one thing, what would that be? Write it out. Get it down on paper. And I know that this could be daunting and I know this can feel overwhelming at times. But write down the things that make you happy. The things that make you excited, the things that you can't wait to get home to do. Write them out. Get the list together. And once you get that list, you will see more of what you're passionate about. And you will find yourselves wandering a little bit less. The next step I want to talk about is identifying. Steve Pinker, I'm reading his book right now, and it's called Enlightenment Now. And he is a fantastic person to read. He talks about deep thoughts, and sometimes they're really heady, and I have to read them over and over again. But he talks about the ladder of cognition. And what he talks about is how we, in our human brains, understand value. And what he says is, our brains are one of the only brains out there that can talk about a noun and then give that noun a noun, and then give that noun a noun, and give that noun a noun. And so the breakdown can be very detailed. We don't just take stuff at face value, which is why sometimes with family, there can be strife if you value one thing, but we're not getting to the root of what you really value. And it can create, in relationships, some heartache. So when he talked about this, I just thought it was such a great thing to think about. And so with trying to identify what your true value is, maybe that's something you need to do. You need to write out what you want to do. You need to write out what you think about, and then break that down. So you want to be a teacher. Well, what do you want to teach? Where do you want to teach? Over what medium? Do you want to do it online? Do you want to do it in person? Do you want to do it at a school? Do you want to do it at a college? Write this stuff down and start breaking it down. And as you start to break this list down, you'll find that you get a little bit more clarity, and you get an identity behind what you really want to do, so you can live that purpose to the fullest. The next step I want to talk about is just living in that. This is something that I think we can all struggle with. We may know what we want to do. We may know where we want to do it, but we don't know how to live in that moment. And that's something that we can get caught looking back at. Our true value doesn't lie in our abilities, but rather in our identity to live in purpose. We want to live in purpose. Do you purposely live or live for purpose? Those are different types of ways to break down and understand what you spend most of your time on. We have time slots set aside for dinner, for lunch, for breakfast, for getting coffee, for getting Rockstar or Monster energy drinks, whatever it is. We have time set aside to watch TV, to hang out, to sleep. But do we set time aside for the things we value? One of the things that my iPhone has been showing me that is a little scary is my weekly screen time feature. And this is an incriminating thing. You can look at it and it tells you how long you've been looking at each app. Now, I know I spend quite a bit of time looking on different things. I could spend quite a bit of time looking on Twitter, looking on Instagram, looking on Facebook. I know I can do that. I spend too much time looking at videos on YouTube, looking at videos listening to podcasts. I just listen to so much stuff. So I've been really trying to balance that out, making sure I'm getting enough books in my system and getting enough knowledge growing in me. So what does your weekly screen time look like? Take a look at it. Figure out where you're at. Because I know, for me, I was spending way too much time on Netflix. I was spending way too much time going through Hulu and Amazon Prime and watching all the videos and watching all the movies and all the series. I really had to look at myself and say, how much time am I spending pouring into myself? How much time am I spending pouring into the purpose that I have for my life? I had to make an adjustment. And I think we can all do that, right? We could all spend more time focused on walking out and living the life that we want. So what I would like for you to do is take that time and look at it. What are some times you can set aside so that you stay focused on living a life full of purpose? The end of that song by A Perfect Circle talks about how we are unique voice among the many in this choir, tuning into each other, lifting all higher. And it's just a beautiful thing to think about. We are all living this life. We're all part of this choir. We're all part of it. But when you can pinpoint the correct sound, when you can hear the voice and really tune into it amongst the choir, then we can help each other. We can lift each other higher. We can encourage each other to live better, to work better, to live with passion. So I hope that you can do that. I hope that you can find that this week. share it. Remember, I want you to remember to subscribe, follow, retweet, share some of this stuff that you may see. Make sure that everybody knows that here at Life Confidential, you can find value for yourself. You can find clarity. You can live with purpose, and you could reclaim the truth for your life. Next week, we're going to talk about how to define your imprint on the world. I do not want you to miss it. This is going to be a great, great moment for you to really look at, now that you have your purpose, what do I do with it? Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Karl Duran, and this is Life Confidential.